Like I've given a lot of competitive exams, and GMAT is, even though it's verbal, even though there is some bit of vocabulary, it's primarily strategy. One thing which really changed for me was having a proper plan and sticking to it.
Hi Piyush, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good morning for you, I guess. Good morning.
Yes, it is. But thank you so much for joining in, Piyush. First of all, I don't know if I took an opportunity to congratulate you on this fantastic score, GMAT 760, and it was not long ago that you started with your preparation. As I can see in the screen, Quant 50 and Verbal 42, which ended up with the GMAT 716, the current edition of GMAT. I specifically am telling about the current edition. I think going back to the time when you started, you were, and the Focus edition had just been announced. You were slightly contemplating about Focus edition and GMAT current edition. So can you just go back, rewind in time, and just talk about about the time that how it all started for you?
Right. So I have been thinking about taking GMAT for the last 2.5 odd years. Right. So I graduated from college in 2020. Then I was placed in Flipkart as an analyst, where it had been about a year since I started working, and I was like, okay, it's about time I start considering my MBA options, right? So initially I was thinking about CAT, and then I was like, okay, let's think about GMAT also, because like a couple of my seniors were like, okay, MBA, the average work ex is around 2 years
Right,
like especially in IIMs.
right,
So the only college left in India which makes sense for somebody, because I was planning to work for at least 3 years
right.
before we went into an MBA, right? So they
You
were
bet.
like,
Yeah.
only college in India which makes sense for you is ISB, and they also consider GMAT. They don't consider CAT. So it's like, okay, let me start looking into what the GMAT exam is and how the format is and all, right. That time, my quant was sorted because I come from an engineering background. Quant was never much of an issue for me, but it was the verbal where I was pretty awful. And especially in sentence correction and reading comprehension, I was always lost. I was, again, like, to use Sandeep sir's words, it's like a sentence correction going with intuition never works, and that was the strategy I was following. I was never a grammar Nazi or anything. Like even in school, I was just like, okay, this sounds right. Let me go with this. That was the way I always approached English back in school. GMAT and RC. Uh, I also face the challenges which most of the people face, right? Like I start reading the passage, then by the time I'm finished with the passage, I'm like, okay, what was at the start of the passage? And every time I read a question, I have to go back to the passage, and I used to waste a lot of time there. And my accuracy was pretty awful. Like in my practice days, it was somewhere around 50, 60. And by the time I gave the exam, I'm thinking I probably got it up to maybe 60, 70, but I don't
Right,
know what my accuracy there was. But again, I got a verbal 38, if I remember correctly, 38 or 37, and my quant was still 50. It
right,
was cool. So then again, I was like, okay, this is valid for 5 years. Let me park this. Let me try to build on my work ex, right? So then another year went by, and I had around 2 years of work ex by then. Then I switched my job, and then I had and I was like, it was about 9 months into my next job. I was like, okay, I like a lot of my college mates actually started going abroad, and they were already in colleges. A friend of mine got a 730, and she had gotten admitted into MIT for masters in finance. And like a lot of my friends were already abroad, and they were like, uh, you have a great profile, but if you could get a better GMAT score, you would it would really increase your chances. And scholarship was something which I was always
looking
gunning
at
for. Was like yeah, like I'm also supporting my mom, so like financially I don't want to be
it.
like I'm exhausting all my savings and going there, and then like it
Starting
would be
all over. It's like a reset. Yeah.
Exactly.
And what
So
Sandeep sir often tells, GMAT is the only criteria where the adcoms can actually say that, it's if you're looking at a need-based scholarship, they cannot compare or differentiate two individual based on the profile that they come from. It is just the GMAT score because that's the common factor. And it's great thinking at this point. Yeah. So you are looking to apply this year because now you have a collective, let's say by the time the schools are going to consider your overall experience up until April next year, if you're applying this year, right? April of any year. So collectively 3 years of experience. So you kind of
yes,
mark
I
that.
would have 4 years of experience. So I started working in July of 2020. Uh,
Right,
so
4 years. Great. So definitely the choice of current edition at this point kind of added a lot of impact to to that decision. No, specifically speaking about your journey while you were studying quant. Let's park it aside, but you should also be telling what really favored to help you stand at 50, because that's also very important. But let's go with this fact, because then you shared with my colleague Richa, right?
yeah.
That you were at an accuracy of 60%. That's what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And how did it transition to a 95%? What material kind of boosted that performance or the accuracy?
Yeah, so for verbal, I will have to comment the material which top 1% has given me. Like, uh, okay, so I had tried Magoosh for my last year's prep, and I'm comparing it based on that, right? So they have these video sessions, and here it's more of a PDF based, where you do a lot of pre-work, and then you go into a class, and there is a discussion on the I had taken the self-paced course where there is a recorded session, and sir like explains his thought process. So it was never an explanation, it was how a person who has aced the exam thinks about solving a problem. That was what I got from the lecture videos, right? But the entire studying process was primarily through my understanding of the PDFs, me practicing problems, and that I felt worked very well for me, because whenever I'm watching a person explaining it on screen or dissecting the problem on screen, I tend to zone out, which is which didn't do much help for me in sentence correction, and especially RC. They're explaining the passage, they're dissecting the passage, but they never showed how they would go about it, or they never gave a framework of how they were thinking.
And why? But the most of it is, why do you have to think in this way? So this is a classic case of any of our lecturers in the, let's say in the class, that you zone out if you don't
Yeah.
get a reason of why. So if you think, you mentioned quant has been like your strong area. Now this is what I could infer. It is because you know how and why, and then get to the answer. The moment that reasoning is out of equation, right?
Yeah.
That's when a lot of students who say they hate math, and then there is students who love math. So that's the difference. And with verbal, Sandeep sir introduces your mathematical logical formula right there, that makes the entire segment of learning
Makes it
another.
enjoyable. It makes it very
Yeah,
enjoyable. Like
that's what
how to, uh, and that's something which I really liked about the GMAT. Like I've given a lot of competitive exams, and GMAT is, even though it's verbal, even though there is some bit of vocabulary, it's primarily strategy. And especially the Octave framework gave me a strategy. Like I started enjoying solving RC problems,
super.
like figuring out, okay, what is the opinion of the author, what is the tone of the passage. It's like you're given a problem statement and you're trying to solve it step by step. And like that, it made the having a framework made the preparation really enjoyable for me. And like initially, again, like stamina was a major issue for me. Like I used to solve 10 problems in one go, and I was like, okay, I'm done for the day, let me take a break, and something like that. But once I
Right.
started enjoying it, I could actually sit for 1 hour and solve 30 passages in one go. So, or 30 problems in one go, right? So
Perfect.
so
So
I
yeah. So about if I have to just slowly go into the quant section, you did mention that you have a habit of doing the 700 level question every single day with the right approach. So can you delve into more detail about the right approach, and how does this right approach entail, and how it helped you build a momentum in your quant preparation?
Right. Yeah. So I was fairly confident with the concepts. So I wouldn't recommend anybody just doing the 700 to 800 level problems, because that would never, because if you're not clear with the concepts, you could, no matter how much practice you do, you will always keep having a doubt in your mind. Okay, I didn't know this, right? Or it is because this is something completely new to me. That should never occur to you when you start practicing. So so how I went about my prep was, actually I did 31 questions of the 700 to 800 level problems. I ended up with an accuracy around 85, 90%, right? And I was like, and I checked out where I was going wrong, and it was basically careless mistakes or mistakes under time pressure. Like multiplication में साइन इधर उधर हो गया या फिर ऐसा कुछ था. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, my concepts are sorted. It's just about me building my mental stamina to solve these problems.
Right.
Making sure I'm consistently hitting an accuracy of 90, 95 or 100% when I'm doing quant. So I was sorted in that. Every day I used to spend about an hour once I started preparing seriously on quant, and I used to solve 31 questions in one go, 31 questions in one go. And my quant preparation was just that. And consistently doing it gave me the mental stamina to do it in the exam as well
Exam
without.
day. Right.
And the fact that I was doing 700 to 800 level problems made the actual exam look like a kind of a cakewalk. Like it was quite easy, because obviously in the initial questions you get easier questions, and the questions towards the end get harder. And in my actual GMAT exam, I did get a couple of very hard questions, and I was like, I also had I had a lot of liberty when I was around the second half. Like when I had finished around 20 questions, I had a lot of time left. I had around 27 odd minutes left by that time. But there was one problem which I spent around 4.5 minutes, and that kind of messed up my planning. So this was a mistake I did during the exam, because I was like, okay, I think I can hit a 51 here. I was like, okay, let me just do it, do it, do it. And in the end, I had to
And you
miss
just
it and move on.
move on.
But uh, yeah, like again, this was a mistake I did during the exam. Just don't get attached to a question if you don't do it. Just go ahead and, but yeah, consistently solving 700 to 800 level problems gave me like, I did not have to face time pressure for the initial 20 questions, but it was because of a mistake I did, where in the later half I actually got into a little hitch with the timing. But yeah, like it gives you that mental stamina to sit through 1 hour, and also makes the actual exam feel quite easy and gives you a lot of freedom in terms of your time management.
So on the test day, were they, because then you've been practicing questions, so there could have been a lot of familiarity. Was there any question that seemed out of, like it was unknown, or absolutely something that you've never seen before in your preparation? Were you stuck at that?
Yeah,
Anything
in Quant, there was one problem, like I mentioned,
that
which was
you
a
spent a
solving
four and a
problem.
half?
And it was not like I didn't know it. Maybe I didn't know the best approach for it,
Right. Okay.
because there was a lot of counting things which I had to do. And I was trying to list it down. Obviously, I'm sure there would have been an easier way to go about it, but I just didn't know that strategy. It was not like the concept was new to me, but I was just following the longer route of arriving at the answer, is what I felt.
You went back to the older
Apart from
version.
that one question, it was everything was known to me. Like I was sorted in the concepts. Yeah.
So Piyush, you did mention you were a part of you were a self-paced student, and a lot of that comes through consistency, stamina, and every single day you need to kind of drive yourself to get to that score. So during this process, how was the faculty support, Sandeep sir support, while you were preparing? Whenever you had any doubts, how did that all come together?
Yeah. So I found the PDFs quite detailed. Like I never had to reach out to somebody to have it clarified, because once I read the PDFs, like it sir has written the PDFs like it's a conversation. Like it's not really just an explanation. he puts in these small conversational kind of sentences in
Like,
between.
you cannot miss this. If you do it, then I can guarantee you will not get like above 700. So there's this small
Yeah.
remarks that he has. Yeah, I get you.
So I never had to reach out to somebody over mail or something because the
That's
PDFs were
fantastic.
pretty detailed for me and I could understand it clearly. But again, I have to mention the way the PDFs are structured. If you focus on that, it would 90% of the cases you will be sorted with just reading the PDFs. But yeah, like I not from personal experience, but I've heard other people say that the team response to your query is quite uh, like they don't take much time. They can
That's
respond to your query quick. But I never had to do that because the PDFs were more than
self-sufficient
enough
for
for
you.
me. Yes,
Right.
self-sufficient.
So, when you look back and now, if you have to just tell your friends or anyone who want to look at your success story, what is one do and what is one do? Like one thing that they should not and one thing that they should do in their preparation or in the exam that you would say, or you could actually tell more than one, but yes, at least something there.
The one thing which really changed for me was having a proper plan and sticking to it. So yeah, we get an Excel sheet which has the customized study plan, right? So for verbal, I stuck to it and I trusted it blindly. Quant, I did my own thing. That's a separate conversation. But for verbal, I stuck to it. So after you make a plan, stick to it. That is one thing which I'll have to say. And secondly, don't do these short sprints of practice. In the initial days, it's fine. You're doing 10 questions, you're checking the answer. But at least for the 20 days before the exam, start practicing 36 problems for quant, like 36 sentence correction questions. Do it. 36 CR questions. Do it. 36 RC questions. Do it. Do it separately. And 31 quant questions. Do it. Like even if it's one section, you do that,
Entirely.
and that is how you should practice. Not like 5 questions in one go, then you check the solution. 10 questions in one go, then you check the solution. In
Right.
the initial days, that works because you're trying to get a grasp over the concepts. But once you are fairly confident on the concepts, your practice should be more focused on building your stamina as well as figuring out a time management strategy.
That's true.
Uh, like doing it with the actual exam time
Or
constraint is quite helpful. Like that really helped for me. And yeah, the other
perfect.
thing.
Perfect. Perfect. That was, one good advice that you have. A lot of students need to stick to this. This is one of the biggest difference between someone who gets the score and who, gets the get to do writing an exam versus the someone who is just holding back and still, having a prolonged preparation. Now, very again, fantastic score, and you are due to apply in the round two. So I am hoping that you really get crack the top M7 schools or the schools of your dreams. Yeah, I would also really, really hope. And when you announced the score and when you reported the score to Richa, we were so thrilled, the entire team, I can tell you. And we are again here to help you in any case if you need any assistance. I don't know if you did attend Autry's session, but there is one
I've already
tomorrow.
started working with him. I've already
You're
started.
working with him already, right? So he'll give you, there is another format towards your entire application as well, which I'm sure you're enjoying it as well.
A lot
But
of self
there's a lot
introspection.
of things that will come out. Your personality will come out in front of you, and that kind of help you realize what you want to do in the next year, next 5 years, right? And there's quite a lot. And did you get a chance to watch Know the World in through your
I did.
preparation?
I did. And again, that is something which I actually missed out on. Like the Know the World session. Okay, I'll talk about it in two ways. Like the first one is with respect to the GMAT, right? Like the Know the World is quite like, vast in terms of the knowledge you gain. And after you watch that entire series, right? There is no passage in the RC section which will be like, okay, this is something completely new to me. Like, okay, I have some background information, and you won't get flustered the moment you see a passage in the exam,
That's
right? Like, okay, this is something which I have some background information on. Okay, this might be additional information to me, and you get excited about reading a passage.
right.
If it's something which you do have no idea about, and you see it in the passage, and you're already lost by the third sentence, what is this person trying to talk about? and you won't even understand the passage, let alone trying to figure out what the opinion of the author is, right? So
I
this
mean,
was the
going
first.
back to that time when you were going, reading the passage, coming to the question, reading,
Exactly.
like that entire to and fro just completely cuts down when you look at an RC passage, when you
We
have
were
this.
emphasizing on this a lot, connecting the dots, right? So the
Right.
passage just becomes one dot in your vast understanding of the background information regarding the topic, right? So that's with respect to the exam. Now, moving away from the exam, that session has given me so much information and has given me so much talking points among my peer group, right? Recently, there's been a lot of discussion regarding the Hamas, like Israeli-Palestine conflict, and
Right.
that is something which Sir talks about. And I've used the points which he has talked about in the Know the World sessions to talk about the current issues with my friends and my peers, right?
Mm.
So, like, it gives you a lot of perspective, and it gives you a new way of looking at things and think, and it just helps you connect with uh, network that in terms of benefits, it helps you build conversations with people because
Absolutely. So I think
so
it's a very burning topic that you know the Palestine and Israel, but then you're not just basing this judgment just on what the news is showing or the emotional aspect of it. You really have a lot of history and background to it to understand why there is such an animosity, why there is so much tension, and then based on that, when you put this judgment forward, it makes your perspective a complete whole new, a different perspective. And that's what I mean. It's just, this is one of these burning topic, right? And it's not a platform for us to comment, but I mean, let's leave it to someone who are the
yeah,
experts in that.
people
but
can have their own judgment, but
but let's say in the
neutral
business side of
background.
things, you have this as one of the topic in your interview, and imagine the the power that you can put forth, and not just the, oh well, what we are seeing, and then emotional aspect of it, and bringing that, I think everybody kind of shows. But yeah, that's the power impact. Fantastic. I am so thrilled that these programs that Sandeep sir has set up for you, both GMAT and KTW, and now with all 3, has really helped you get where you wanted to see yourself. And we are so happy that we could be a small part of your journey together. Thank you so much for joining in today. And I'm so happy that you connected. It was just a fantastic conversation. Thank you
Thank
again. Thank you.
And yeah,
All the very best.
forever indebted for the knowledge I've gained during the course of my prep, and I that will always stick with me. Like, I actually enjoyed preparing for the GMAT thanks to the material, and obviously the Know the World session, like I've mentioned, it is something which I can carry forward and which will help me in the future for sure, because like I've already seen the impact in the conversation which I'm having with my peers around. So I'm sure
Absolutely.
it'll.
Let's put it in MBA, and then in your work profile, in your work interviews, every aspect of it, right? I mean, it is a building block to more. It helps you read more, and then when you read more, you have your own opinions more, and you know how to kind of formulate that there. So, all the here's wishing you all the very best, and hoping to hear the admits from all 3 and yourself when you crack it in a couple of weeks or months from now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you
Bye.
so
Take care. Thank you.